Hey folks, have you ever been screwed over by a car salesman? When you're buying a car, you ever feel like, I feel like I paid a little too much? You get home and you do some Google searches and you're like, oh my God, I way overpaid. Why is that? Well, this statistic right here that we found shows that women pay $8,000 more than men do when they buy cars. And you know what? I got a daughter, Vivi, and I'm not gonna let her be part of that statistic. So this video is for her and all the other daughters out there. My name's Chris Naugle. This is What Now? What's next for your next car? So let's get into this. There are so many different factors when you're buying a car that we got to consider. I mean, the car buying environment changes all the time. I mean, you got different interest rate environments, you've got different supply and demand, you got cars that are more popular than others, and you just got different sets of egos to deal with. So we're gonna dive into the art of buying cars. I've bought so many cars that I literally have figured this out, but it's not easy. I'm gonna give you all the different steps that you need to buy a car and save a bunch of money. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna give you the #1 secret to buying cars. But first I wanna tell you a story that I think you're gonna relate to. So not long ago, my mother-in-law was in a car accident. She had a really nice Alfa Romeo car and that car got totaled. Can't believe the insurance company totaled it, but they did. So she was in a position where she needed to find a new car and the insurance check was only so much money. So she had asked me a bunch of questions and I told her some of the things I'm going to teach you, but of course, she's my mother-in-law. She disregarded everything I told her and went to the dealership. Later, she shows up at our house in our brand new car and starts telling us all about it. Hey, what do you think of it? I'm like, it's beautiful. Like, I love the interior, love the color. But then I always ask the same thing. So how much did you pay? How much are your payments? And what she told me, I was like, oh my God. How did you end up in this situation? Well, the salesman, he was so nice and he said, this is a really good deal and this and that. And I said, what research did you do? And she says, well, he said it was a good deal. And I said, what research did you do? Did you even listen to what I told you? She didn't. Now listen, she's got a nice car, but she doesn't have a nice car payment. And she certainly didn't get a good price on that car, which fits right into the statistic. Women pay $8,000 more than men. So with that story, let's dive into what was it that I told my mother-in-law that you need to listen to. The first thing, do your research. So the first mistake she made, she went to a dealership and really had the dealership show her the cars. She did not go to a dealership with a car in mind that she was looking to buy. So rule #1, before you go to buy a car, have a couple cars in mind that you want to drive. I mean, you should be able to do this. There's plenty of research, and that's exactly the key. Do your research. Find the car you want. Look at driver reviews. Watch YouTube videos of people testing the car you're thinking about. Everybody has a specific thing they like about a car. What is yours? And then do that research. But most importantly, when you identify 1, 2, maybe even 3 cars that you think you would like, research how much those cars are selling for. It's easy. Type in the model and the year of the car and then say, for sale. That's all you do in Google, and it will pull up all the other cars. And grab a pen and piece of paper or your little notepad on your little device and go through and start writing down how much they're for sale for. You'll see a lot of fluctuation in price, even on brand new cars. But don't just write down the fluctuation in the price. Write down the fluctuation in the monthly payments. This is key. People don't buy cars by price. They buy cars because of a monthly payment. And remember I mentioned that secret at the end? I'm going to show you why that's so important. So let's say your monthly price is $600 a month. When you're researching the cars that you think you would love to own and drive, research what specials there are on lease pricing, what specials there are on just financing that across the country. Believe me, folks, prices fluctuate. So step 1, research. Research the cars you're interested in buying. Look at the reviews, the prices, and the monthly payments that are available countrywide. Now let's talk about step number 2. This is the hardest one. Let's say you're engaged in a conversation at a dealership, you've found the car, you've done your research, but you don't tell the dealership you've done your research. Now you start negotiating price. I don't care if that's the price of the car, which always you should be negotiating that, or if it's the monthly payment. And I'm going to talk about why that's important. A lot of people think, well, what's the difference? If I'm negotiating the price of the monthly payment, oh, there's a huge difference. But always negotiate on both the price of the car and the monthly payment. And here's the thing, you have to be willing to walk away. Your price in your mind, and I'm going to give you an example here in just a second. Your price in your mind was based on the research you did. You already have that written down. You know what the lowest price for this particular car or cars is nationwide because you did your research. So now you're at the dealership, you're negotiating with the salesman or saleswoman, and you can't get to the price. So here's what you do. You just stand up. You thank the salesman or saleswoman for their time and you say, hey, listen, like this has been great. I love the car, but we're just not where we need to be from a price standpoint. I'm gonna go shop a couple other dealerships and I'm gonna make some other phone calls to ones I found online. If you guys are interested in coming down to where I need to be on this price, just give me a call. I'll be free for the next day. That's it. Get up, walk away. Here's what's gonna happen. Some dealerships will just say, okay, sorry we couldn't do anything for you. And they're thinking you're going to fold. They're thinking you're gonna walk through, think about it and be like, you know what, on second thought, I'll take the car. That's what they think. But when they see you drive away, 9 times out of 10, folks, they will call you back. Now I know this is super hard, you're engaged, they got you your cup of coffee or your soda, they'll offer you everything but the kitchen sink. But when you walk out of the dealership, is when they realize they're losing the sale. And you all know sales folks all work on commission. So if you walk out that door, they don't get a commission, that's not good. The dealership also is in the business of moving cars, and they've got margins in these cars, which we're gonna talk about some of those margins, which you don't even think. You're thinking they bought the car for X and they gotta sell the car for Y, and that's your room. And they'll make you sound, well, after the certification, and this is used cars, after we put new tires on, new brakes on, we did all this work, like we're right there. We're actually gonna lose money in the car. Maybe they will lose money on the price of the car, but they'll make money on you, trust me, and I'm gonna tell you how. So you gotta get up and you gotta walk away. So what I wanna do is I wanna talk about this car here and the experience I had. So I went into the dealership and there she was, this 2015 911 Turbo S. Great car, but I didn't need the car. So here's how the whole thing went down. I sat down with the salesperson, I had a budget. Why? Because I found this car online and it just so happened to be at the local dealer. So I did my research, I knew exactly what these cars were selling for, and I knew exactly what they were selling for based on the mileage that this car had. So I already had the price in mind that I was willing to pay. So when I sat down, I was very clear. I did get my cup of coffee though. So they brought the coffee, and then I said to them, all right, I've researched these cars. There's another one in Rochester down the road. There's another one over here. Here's the price I'm willing to pay for this car. So I told him my price, and he kind of had that look on his face. Well, you know, and he starts going through all the things. This is a one-owner car. It's got this. These are the features. The features might be different than the ones you were looking at. And I said, very much could be the case, but that's what these cars are selling for. You guys are at the top of the market. How did I know this? I did my research and I knew the budget. So after we went back and forth a little bit, he says, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to the price. And he says, but let me go talk to the finance manager. This opens up a whole new realm of negotiating. The finance manager. So even if you are below what they could sell the car for. So, you know, whatever your price is, whatever the price of this car is, let's say your price is under that. Here is where you have the ability to come back to the table, but you got to be willing to walk away. I'm going to keep saying that. So when he came back after meeting with the finance manager, we had another discussion. And now the discussion went from the price of the car to the monthly payment of the car. Now I didn't lay all my chips on the card. I just played ball. I said, okay, well, what would this look like monthly? And he already had the amount. And I said, what is that based on from a price? It was their price. And I said, we're still off on the price, but that payment is about where I want to be. How many months is that payment for? He did 72 months. I would never finance a car longer than 60 months. So I said, what's the 60-month payment on that? And what is the interest rate for that finance company? We said, we found the lowest interest rate with this XYZ finance company. And he says, that is what your payment would be 60 months. This is what it would be 72 months. So now I've got a second round of negotiating I can hit, but I'm still gonna come back to the price of the car. That's the part that he's trying to get me to focus on the payment because he has a lot of room to move that payment. And he's trying to get me off of the price. Here's how the discussion went. We went back and forth a few times. I started to position myself, hey, I'm a local buyer. This car will stay locally. You guys will service this car just like you do my other cars. And that's got value, does it not? Well, he didn't really say much. We were off by about $5,000 in price. $5,000 on a car like this is a lot, and $5,000 on any car is a lot. How the discussion went is we stonewalled. We got to a point where I was at my price, he was at his, we couldn't make it happen. So, what was the last thing I told you on the last step? It's time to get up and walk away. So there's a couple other things that you really have to factor into this whole car buying thing, and that is timing. You see, car dealerships have more room in price when they have to meet their quotas. So it's important to know, when do car dealerships have to meet their quotas? Well, it's like every business. At the end of the month, because they want to show a good month, at the end of a quarter, and especially at the end of the year. So with cars, the best time to usually negotiate a car is the end of the year. And that's because they're trying to move the lot. A lot of times they have new cars coming in for the next season, the next year. And I have found that by going in end of the month, end of the quarter, or definitely end of the year, you have a lot more room to negotiate. So remember all the steps that we talked about before. You've already done your research, you've set your budget, you're willing to walk away, and now you know when to come in and do that negotiating. This is going to get you a lot further, and this is definitely going to get the better price. Oh wait, there's one more thing. You have to ask about incentives. Now you probably already know this because you did your research and you saw all the different incentives. Dealerships get incentives to move cars, especially cars right before the next year is coming out. They'll put all sorts of incentives. So when you sit down, one of the first things is just to say, hey, are there any incentives on this car or on these other cars? Because remember, you came in knowing which cars you were interested in. One other thing too on this. When you go in there, make sure you tell them you're looking at other cars and other models. And don't just say other cars from that dealership. Say other cars from other dealerships, other makes and models that they don't sell. Because now they know you're willing to go to another dealership and not just make the deal here. And they want your deal. Hey, while we're at it, if I may ask you all a little favor from a negotiating standpoint, could you subscribe to this channel right here? And while you're at it, there's a little bell up top. What you're gonna wanna do is smash that bell like this. Ow!
Told you.
Damn it, that hurt. So let's keep moving on. Let's talk a little bit about dealerships and competition amongst dealerships. It's real. In every town, there are multiple car dealerships owned by different families. Some of them are massive conglomerates of dealerships. And here's the thing, a lot of people will think because they're the bigger conglomerate, you can get the better deal. That's not always the case. You want to shop between the big conglomerates and also the small mom and pop dealerships, because the mom and pop dealerships definitely got to move inventory, maybe so more than the big conglomerates. So you want to make sure that you play them against each other. You all have done this, right? Well, if you haven't, this is where you do this. You get a price from one, you go to the next one. You can just do this over the phone and email. I mean, this is how it's done nowadays. You go to one dealership, they give you a price. You go to another dealership, say, I found the exact same vehicle, $10,000 under yours. Are you willing to match? You send them the link to the other dealership's car, and now all of a sudden you are playing the competition between the two. You can even do this amongst 3, 4, sometimes even 5 dealerships if they all have the same car. And in today's world, most dealerships have the same exact cars and a lot of times the same exact colors, because dealerships for their lots will buy the most popular color scheme or the most popular colors of a car. So therefore, all the dealerships seem to have the exact same cars in the exact same colors. So play that competition. But hold on. There's one other thing that we left out earlier that I think is a major factor. Trade-ins. If you're buying a new car, you probably already have a car. And if you've already got a car, the biggest thing you're thinking is, I'm gonna go there and see what they'll give me for my car. Now, 9.9 times out of 10, they're gonna lowball the crap out of you for your car. But they're gonna play it off and say, yeah, but you don't have to pay the sales tax. And they are right. When you trade in your car against a new car, it's gonna reduce the amount of the new car, which means you save on sales tax. Now, I'm in New York. Sales tax is pretty high here, which is why none of my cars are bought with New York State registrations. I'm not gonna get into this. All my cars are in Montana because I don't like paying the sales tax, but that's for another video. I'm just trying to plant some seeds. The sales tax does matter, but it's a simple mathematical calculation. Let's say you go in with your car. You did your research. Your car is worth $40,000. That's what the car is selling for everywhere else, and go with kind of the middle of the road. You could even do Kelley Blue Book. That's a good one to use. And then just take and dial it down, not from extremely good, go to like good condition. What's the value on a trade-in? That's pretty accurate because that's a lot of times what dealerships are using as well. Now you know what your car is worth, trade-in value and retail private party sale. So they're gonna come to you with a much lower price probably than what the trade-in value was on Kelley Blue Book. So, and then they're gonna say, yeah, but if you trade it in, I know we're not giving you as much as you could get if you sold it on your own, but that's kind of a pain in the butt. However, you're not gonna have to pay sales tax on that because it's gonna reduce your new car purchase by whatever the trade-in value is. So run the math. Okay, if your sales tax is 8.75, take the difference of what they offered in your trade-in, 20 grand, subtract, or just do 20 grand times 8.75, that's the amount of savings. Now you can do a very educated job of figuring out, is it a good trade-in? It's never going to be a good trade-in. So tell them, no way, I need this much for my car. Otherwise, we're not making this deal happen. And this is, again, where we come back to that competition. Go to multiple dealerships with the same car in the same question. How much will you give me for trade-in? Here's what my research showed it's worth. Go to them all. One of them, every time, is gonna come in with a higher trade-in. So you see how we're kind of building this. It's not a puzzle. It seems like a lot of steps, but really all you're trying to do is give substantiation behind your price. So here's another thing. Go on CarMax, go on Carvana, and I'm sure there's other sites that will give you an instant price for your car, or at least they'll say that they'll give you that price. And most of the times they will. So now you've got other offers on your car. You bring them to your local dealership or dealerships that you're pinning one against the other, and now all of a sudden you can really get them up on the trade-in. And the trade-in value makes a huge difference on what you pay or don't pay for that new car. So all the while, you came in, you knew the cars you wanted, you knew the price you were willing to pay, or that you also knew the monthly payment you were willing to pay, which we haven't covered that yet. You also know you're trading a car in, but you know what your trade-in value is worth, and you have a few offers from online sites for what they'll give you for your car. So all you're trying to do is get this dealership to match what these other companies are willing to do. So to get all this done, you have to stay very calm and you have to be patient. I know I'm gonna come back to my mother-in-law. She wasn't patient at all. She was literally going into the dealership, and in her mind, she was walking out with a car. And the car dealership and the salesman or saleswoman, I don't know, definitely took advantage of her. I would say she I hate to say this. So she easily paid $10,000 more than I would have paid for that car she bought. And it was a brand new car. I know for a fact she paid way too much. And she also got nipped on the financing. So let's just take it there. Let's talk about financing. Here's some things you need to understand. When you're buying a car, there's the price of the car. Usually, just so you know, on a brand new car, they don't have a lot of room on the price of that car. There's a very thin margin on the price of that car. So don't try to always negotiate the price down a huge amount. You have to go with the research that you found in other dealerships and go with the lowest price. So that's probably going to be the sticker, right? That's going to be the floor of where they can go. But here's how dealerships make money. Dealerships know that most of the people that buy a new car are going to finance that car. I'm not going to get into leasing right yet, but finance that car. So these dealerships have relationships with a bunch of different banks. These banks kick money back to the dealership in the form of points or rewards or something. They can't share in the commissions, but they can certainly kick them back on marketing and all that stuff, and they do. How do I know that? You remember that car I showed you that I just bought? Well, I had a really big discount that I wanted on that car. And when they asked me, would I be paying cash for the car? I said, well, to get to my price, what's going to be the best option? They said financing, but I already knew it was financing because if I finance the car with the dealership, I know they're getting points. So when I sat down with the finance manager and I did the deal on the car, I told the finance manager, I'm paying this loan off. And he said, oh, well, when? And I said, well, probably on the first bill. I'll just get the payoff and I'll pay it off. He said, hey, can you do me a huge favor? Can you wait 3 payments to pay it off? And I said, well, I suppose. So I did. I waited 3 payments, and on that 3rd payment, I got the payoff, and I used my private bank to pay that loan off. So what's the significance of that? The significance is I wanted that car for a specific price. The only way the dealership could get to my price was by getting those points or rewards or whatever it is the bank kicks them back on the financing. So because I financed the car, even though I paid it off, and now it's financed through my own banking system, which I'll talk about that at the end a little bit, I was able to get the price I wanted. So sometimes you got to give a little bit to get. And just so you all know, when you walk into a dealership, primarily on brand new cars, and you tell them you're going to pay cash, it's done. They are not going to negotiate much. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, dealership would love, getting a cash deal. Wrong. Dealership is getting all the money. The finance company is giving them 100% of the money, plus points and fees that they get because you financed it. That's the way it all works. And I know we all don't think that way, but I'm trying to get you to understand how to negotiate the best price, the best trade-in, the best monthly payment, and the best deal for yourself. You got to go in with the anticipation of financing the car, even if you just pay the car off the first month. That's fine. And I would highly recommend you do that. So this isn't a step, this is just a little warning. The one thing I want you to be really aware of is when you're negotiating, please don't fall into the trap of negotiating the monthly payment. The financing aspect, which we just covered a second ago, can also lead you down a road that is a trap. Because with financing, they got a lot of levers they can pull. They can work multiple banks, different rates, they can add points onto the rate. So let's just say the going rate for bank financing is 6%. But then you go to the dealership and all of a sudden you're at 7. Well, it's because they added points to it. They can do that to make the deal. And you might not even know this, but they will. So before you go in with your research, one additional thing I forgot to mention is go on bankrate.com or any of those sites and just see what the going rate is for new cars and used cars, depending on what you're buying. It'll show you what the today rate is. So when you go into the dealership and you're talking financing, ask them, what is the rate? If it's any higher, it's because they're building points, and tell them, I can go to this bank and get it at this rate. Now they might just say, that's fine, use your bank, but I bet you they won't. They'll negotiate that trip back and forth with the finance manager. The other trick that they always play, and this one has gotten out of hand, the term. Oh, you want a lower payment? No problem. Here's the 72 month. They can even go 80 some months on cars nowadays. But you have to be the expert here, which is why you come in with everything written down. So once you've got your negotiated price, make sure the monthly payment doesn't get skewed by adding time to it, because that's adding financing costs and everything else. Well, I mean, that is it, unless you're planning on paying it off in cash, or in case you're paying it off with the infinite banking concept in your own private bank, and that would work. Here's another step, and they'll get you every time with this. I've even gotten beaten by this one, but again, for my daughter, this is important because women are definitely the ones that always fall for this, and that is the add-ons. So now you've done all your homework, your research, you've gotten the trade-in negotiated, everything looks great. You're ready to close the deal. You sit down for one final meeting to pencil it all, and now comes the salesman again. And now this is where they add things on. Would you like wheel protection? Would you like tire protection? Would you like the Simonize thing? Would you like the interior ceramic coat, the exterior ceramic coat? Oh my God, they add everything on. I mean, would you want to buy the extended warranty? All these things. And how do they negotiate these? Not by the cost of the package. Nope. By adding $10 more to your payment. You can have all of this. But wait, there's more. So when they do that, don't forget, if it's $10 more a month, you're like, that's worth it. Like if I ding the rim, you guys will replace it. They say yes, not exactly. I've done this. Luckily on my wife's car, we had this and she dinged a rim. And what we did is we went to the insurance that we paid for because it was only $10 a month, and they gave us a hell of a time. They wanted to just repair the rim, and I said, no, you're gonna have to replace the rim. There's no repairing this. So they're always gonna fight you about that replacement. Maybe not the tire ones, that might be a good one to buy, but they don't replace tires for wear. It's just if you hit something, get a nail, and all of that. And also, sorry, one last thing. The car you buy, the type of car, sometimes tires are way more on one car than they are another. Factor that in, because the warranty typically has one flat cost across all the vehicles. So if you're buying like an AMG, a Porsche, or something high end, those are some expensive tires, and that tire warranty might make sense, but it's always going to be negotiated in the price of your monthly financing, and they will get you every time. Lots of markups in this, folks. Lots of money for the dealership and the salesperson. I mean, they can get sometimes $50 per add-on, and that adds up because they might get you for 5 different things. My suggestion would be do your research. Look at how much these tires are. You can do it right there when they're telling you. Look at the cost of a tire. Tire's $300, and they're gonna charge you $10 more per month, which 10 times 12 times 5 years or 60 months, way more than 300. So you think you're gonna blow more tires than 1 or maybe 2? Probably not. So this is where they get you. This is where they make some extra money for the dealership, but it costs you a whole bunch. Now I know we just covered quite a bit there, and you don't need it all. There's a lot of different circumstances for a lot of different purchases, so I wanted to cover them all. But the most important thing that I mentioned there is be willing to walk away. Don't sit down in that seat at the dealership being like, I'm getting a car today no matter what. No, you might not be. You might be walking away. They might not call you back next day or the next day. You might be working with other dealerships, but pin one against the other and just know your numbers. That's the most important thing and the biggest mistake I think we all make, and I definitely don't want my daughter to make this. So when I explain all of this to my daughter, I'm gonna make my daughter practice, and that's what you should do. Find somebody in your family before you go to buy a car and just practice this stuff. Role play it. I know it sounds silly, but it really does make a huge difference if you go in prepared to negotiate, because that's what this is, a negotiation that you are gonna win. Because you know what? They got the car that needs to move off that lot, and you got the money or the means to buy the car. So you can see who's in the power position. It ain't them, it's you. So with that being said, practice what I just taught you. Write these things down and get ready to go to battle. And when you go to battle, stay nice and calm, because calm is a superpower when you're negotiating. And hey folks, there's one thing I didn't tell you, but I did tell you in the beginning I was gonna drop a big secret at the end. You see, with all of this, you can get all the money back for every single car you ever buy, drive, and own by changing one thing and adding one step, and that is using the infinite banking concepts. Now, I'm not gonna go deep into this, but if you like the sound of getting all the money back for every car you buy, drive, and own, then you're gonna wanna check this video right here out, how to get all the money back for every dream car you're ever gonna buy, drive, and own. And that goes for any car. So with that being said, watch that video, because that piece is the secret sauce at the end.